Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP, episode 456. We are live tonight, November 15th. I'm Lucas. I am joined tonight by Phil.
Hi.
And Anna.
Good evening.
And Peter.
Forever Destron.
So, tonight we're going to talk about a little Cyberverse here. So, some of the members of the cast have been bugging me to do a show. So we did a live stream at what's going on, Phil?
I'm poking you. I'm poking you.
So we did a live stream at some point where we tried to watch Cyberverse. That did not work out at all because apparently you're not allowed to do that type of thing. So that was a while ago. And then I never picked it back up, Cyberverse at least. But I don't know. Anna, did you end up watching it at the time? Like, I know we're watching some of it. Did you end up watching more of it?
I watched all of season 1, and I didn't really play much with season 2. I mostly just stopped after season 1.
Yeah, so everyone said, so I watched it and it was like, the beginning of season 1 was, heavily about Bumblebee, and it was a little bit slow for me and whatnot. But everyone kept telling me, like, oh, this is a great show, you got to watch it and all that. And so I just never got around to it. And now we're starting on season 4 here, which I'm actually a little bit surprised that it's, went on as long as it has and whatnot. So, but then we said, oh, let's go ahead and do a show about the new movie and all that, So then I've been, catching up and whatnot. So I think Phil and Peter and Annie, like, you guys are all pretty regular watchers of the show, right?
Yes.
I
haven't seen all of season 1, but I've seen all of season 2, 3, and both the season 4 movies.
Now, Phil, do you watch it with your kids as well, or is it just kind of like your own?
I don't think I would have watched this except for my son. My son was probably 5 or so when season 1 was on, and I had seen a little bit of season 1 and just quickly dismissed it. It was this YouTube show, these little 10-minute things, and I get that, like, cartoons have moved to not being 22/30-minute episodes anymore. They're now all doing like these 12, 15-minute episodes. But I had, like, very much dismissed that at the time as, like, it's not a real cartoon because it's not half hour. And it was so Bumblebee centric that I'm just like, meh. The designs were kind of, they were kind of interesting, but still kind of meh. I still don't like the Megatron head design. It just bothers me. But then, like, it came on Netflix, and he was watching it, and he was watching season 2, and like, oh, Cheetor looks pretty cool. Let me see more of this. And he's like, Papa, you gotta watch this. And, like, there's crazy stuff with, like, Skybite and Jetfire being mortal enemies with each other, and Starscream becoming the main bad guy, and then, like, this is pretty cool. And you've got this big giant war, and then, like, season 3 just goes off the rails in terms of, like, insane next level stuff that's more akin to what we were getting from, like, the IDW books in terms of scale, but still pretty kid friendly, and still funny, and just lighthearted. Like, even with the last little movie thing is like, there's things that feel like they should be heavier, but it has still a happy ending, and it's just a weird place for a Transformers show. It's hard to really describe it. It gives a ton of fan service. It is more aimed for kids, but especially if you're a Transformers fan that has like a 5 to 12-year-old, maybe not 12, but like 5 to 10-year-old, you'll probably have fun watching it with your kids.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been complaining for a couple years now. It's like, man, if only there was a show that was accessible for kids but did fan service and was lighthearted but still action packed and all that. Turns out that this show has been going on. I just haven't been watching it. So if we want to get into the new movies, there's some spoiler stuff that I'm happy to talk about, but there's some really good fan service in both movies.
The whole series, though, is just full of fan service.
Yeah.
It's self-referential. It's full of fan service. It brings in all sorts of things. There's a lot more to it. People just dismiss it because it looks colorful and cartoony. And you know what? That's like one of my favorite things about Cyberverse is that, like the most recent cartoon we really talked about as a group was the Netflix cartoon, which kind of shared the comic book style of dark colors and lots of shading and, everything's dirty and gritty. And Cyberverse just says, screw that. It's all bright primary colors and things glow and light up. And I just like that because when I look at my shelves, that's what they actually look like. My shelves are colorful messes of primary colors. They're not gritty. There's nothing gritty about my Transformers toys.
Non-primary colors.
Right, look at that. That's not gritty. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I really like that presentation. It just I don't know. It, like Catherine just said in the chat, it's got that upbeat part to it. Like it never feels dour and sad.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because I was messaging you the other day and I was like, wait a minute, you don't like all this fighting and whatnot, but it seems like at least season 2 and really all of them is that's kind of all they do is they sit there and fight back and forth. But I mean, I guess there's a positive message and it kind of gets to that where they do kind of make amends and whatnot. But
it's Saturday morning cartoon fighting, though.
Yeah, right.
It's not the serious stuff we see in the comic where people are, getting their spines ripped out and
I don't
decapitations
know, man,
and whatnot.
Starscream and Megatron.
There is death. There is death. There's enough death that it's meaningful. And I like that better. I like it when death is used as a meaningful storytelling tool. But that's me getting into my feelings about the comics instead of Cyberverse.
So Peter, what do you think? I know you've been eating your Captain Crunch here, but
I've been eating my Captain Crunch. Hi, everyone. I agree with everything that everyone said. It's fun. It's upbeat. It's bright and shiny and has a positive message. And it's characters with enough self-referential stuff and deep dive references to keep kids happy and keep old men like me happy and maintains a continuity with heavier themes that are presented in a way that I assume kids could handle. I mean, it's not as heavy as some of the stuff that we were watching when we were kids, but it's still a lot of fun, and it feels like the way a Transformers cartoon should be.
Yeah, I feel like if you really modernize what they were going for with G1, this gets closer than most other series. It's modernized. It does not have the same tone or feel as G1 because it's not the 1980s. It's now. And it feels like a now version to me. I think one thing that really turned people off very early on is, one of the very first character you meet is another Bumblebee with the voice problem, which, you don't have to worry about that past season 1, but that does turn people off, especially those of us who don't like the movies and go, ew. But then also they went kind of bold on this little guy on Grimlock and made him very different than we're used to.
But in a fun way.
In a very fun way. Yes, I like this Grimlock. He's fun. He's a different guy.
It's what's fun about this Grimlock in particular is that it's the best of both worlds. If you like your Marvel G1 comic Grimlock, who's like a thinker but has a speech impediment or whatever, and you like your big dumb cartoon Grimlock, especially post movie where he's just comic relief, you get both in the same package. He's in bot mode, he's a thinker, and he's sorry, now the cat's visiting. But in Dino mode, he's like Gen 1 cartoon Grimlock-ish. Enough.
Comic relief. Totally.
Have any of you ever watched, it was maybe about 10 years back, the cartoon show Batman, the Brave and the Bold?
Mm-mm.
I know what it is, but I haven't watched it.
This has a similar sort of feel to it, where it is, that show was very deep cuts in terms of Batman and DC Comics. It was super duper silly, but still was cool battles and hero stuff. And they never treated the characters as being silly. And I feel like that's how this is, even with kind of sillier characters like Grimlock. Batman the Brave and the Bold's version of Aquaman was like super over the top and boisterous, and very much reminds me of bot mode Grimlock from the show. And when you first watch it, you're just like, that's different. I don't like different. And then you start to enjoy the characters, and it's just like there's a whole great episode with Grimlock and RC just going on an adventure together. That's a ton of fun.
I love that Catherine says, we stand together in the face of catastrophe with courage and good cheer.
Yes. That is
the recording. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what he says right here. Not with this face, though. With the other face.
Yeah. Surrounded by his friends.
Yes.
Yep.
Who die? All those friends die.
Yep.
They do.
And he outlives them, and it gets dark, and he gets sad.
They do. And
Yeah.
he does. And he keeps going.
Yeah.
He's a positive, influential character. And that's the kind of subtle stuff Cyberverse pulls throughout, is it's throughout a silly storytelling tool where you have this dapper nobleman acting Grimlock, living with the dinosaurs. They tell you a tragic story of a guy who outlived all of his friends.
Yeah, it's such an interesting, I don't know, in the way that they deal with death even on the show and all that. It's such an interesting tone. I don't know, I feel like it shouldn't work, but it does.
It does. It does, and I totally get, especially, I assume we'll get to the new movie soon, but especially in there, I just got a lot of reminders of the things that people don't like about Cyberverse, just the tone, the energy level, that sometimes it feels like the story is being told from the perspective of a hyperactive 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And I get why that doesn't appeal to people.
Well, I really felt like that almost more with when I was sitting through, watching season 2, it felt more like that than the newer movies, but I don't know if it was just that I got used to it or if it's just that the newer movies didn't feel as hyperactive as that.
I mean, Bumblebee is that character. He's the hyperactive 12-year-old point of view. So I think, the first and second season really have a lot of hyperactive 12-year-old to them. But it's not a bad thing. Again, if you want to get hyperactive 12-year-olds interested in the cartoon and interested in Transformers, that's how you do it.
Well, it's just a departure from, if you watch this back to back with those Netflix shows, it's just complete, because they talk so slow and all that, and it's so gritty and whatnot, and then this is bright and just crazy, off the wall.
Yeah, you didn't get a Clint Eastwood themed Transformer in the Netflix series.
No, you did not. And you do here.
You do. Who's also got a cool backstory. He's kind of a silly character, but his backstory is oh, yeah, I'd be a jaded, pissed off Transformer if that happened to me too.
So
Can we dive into some of these new characters?
But before we do that, I just want to say it somewhat annoys me that like I almost wish we could get really nice versions of like all these characters and whatnot, because even the deluxe line, what's it called? What's the
Deluxe?
Is it deluxe?
Deluxes.
Yeah. Even the
Deluxe,
deluxes, like
Deluxe
to
Grimlock.
me, I don't like the plastic they use and whatever. It does not feel collector grade to me. And so I wish that somehow I could get generations versions of some of these characters that are this. Like the fact that we get just like there's so many fan favorites and whatnot. Like, you know, the mercenaries, even with Tarn and whatnot, or like whatever is a completely different version, but of Tarn. But you get all these. And I'm like, man, I wish they could just like I would be happy if they put some of this stuff into the actual
Mini
Generations
Chuckster
line. In the mini Chuckster piece, yes.
Charleston piece.
Charleston piece. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, but we'll get that in about 10 years, right?
I can see us
It's
getting
classic.
yeah. I can see us getting Wild Wheels and new Skyhammers and stuff like that. That would be
Shadow
great.
Striker.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Ooh,
Shadow Striker. Yeah.
Poor girl never got a good toy. Too bad.
No.
Not a one.
Even the Seeker redesigns are really cool looking.
They are. You know what I was thinking of, though, when I was watching it, is as
Would it
I've been
scare you if I said I
collecting-
do? I do know what you were thinking.
Oh, yes. I actually got confused.
I
and thought you
don't
were
know.
talking to someone else.
I
'cause
don't
this
know
is
what you were
really
thinking,
weird.
but I'm just saying, like, what if I did know what you were thinking, Anna?
Please tell me, what was I thinking?
I said I don't, but it would
Oh,
be.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed now. You got me all excited.
Sorry.
I thought I was going to go to this like surreal portal into my own psyche.
That was a bad dad joke.
But instead, I was just going to comment that as I was collecting, I've been collecting the deluxe figures as they've been coming out. And as I've been collecting them, one of the things that always kind of bugs me is that, in the deluxe line, everyone is about the same size, right? Like they're all about the same size. Except in the storytelling, in the main scenes, everyone looks about the same size. So it's consistent. It's like it doesn't make me uncomfortable that Grimlock's little because he isn't that big. It doesn't make me uncomfortable that, Bumblebee stands about the same height as Optimus half the time because they do. And it totally works. Like, it was bothering me about the toys until I really watched the series. Yes, a couple of exceptions.
I mean, but
some astronomical ones.
Yes, exactly. It's very, very, very few. But yeah, just whatever. Everybody stands about the same stature, and that's fun.
It works because it almost works better because they're a race of people that interact. The wild size disparities being more rare actually works a little better.
The one of the movies had a giant size issue that, like, I'll just let it go. But how does he fit in that spaceship?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you totally, Lucas. I want to see, like, generations, whatever legacy line, whatever you want to call it, mainline versions of a lot of these characters. I mean, like I said, the new characters that we get in the show, and I think that's something that I'm always sort of clamoring for, some newer characters. McAdams, who we I think only just heard in name before, never really seen or heard him speak. He was a cool character with a cool backstory and more going on with him. We talked about Shadow Striker and just like, her deal of being, why she hates the Autobots is because she keeps getting blown up by them and being put back together. And she ends up as just this like Frankenstein transformer that would, not an Autobot X style kind of thing, but still like an actual transformer that transforms. And even her car mode looks like it's different parts cobbled together. Wild Wheel is silly, but his backstory is that he was on the Ark and he got like fell off the Ark, and instead of going into hyper sleep or whatever, just travels the universe trying to find Optimus Prime and just getting bitter that he got left behind. what is it? Meteor Strike? Is that the guy's Meteor Fire? Is the Croc Hunter type of character?
The Skyhammer looking dude?
No, not the Skyhammer. The guy who's the buddies with Cosmos.
With Cosmos, crikey guy.
Yes, him. He's basically a Transformer Croc Hunter.
Yeah, what was his?
I thought it was Meteor or something.
It might be. I'm brain farting right now, but he transforms into Generation 1 Skyhammer's alt mode.
Yes.
Yeah. Forgot his name. Neat.
Yeah, he's interesting, and like you just get this feeling that started with season 2. They kind of got the handcuffs taken off, and then season 3 was they were allowed to just go wild with stuff. He
is Meteor Fire, Phil. I had
Meteor
to say
Fire.
it before we
Thank
lost
you.
it.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah. Iaconus, another literally giant character. That's also awesome. I don't remember the other Titan's name, but those were cool and fun scenes. So it's a kid show, and there's times where, because of the animation style and the atmosphere of the show, it feels still kid friendly, and there are times where it's like, holy crap, this is a giant, like, epic battle. And if it was animated a little bit differently, would feel just like mind-blowingly insane in terms of how big the scale is with some of this stuff.
And like a lot of times they just break it up with like, the way certain characters talk with their silly voices. Like there'll be a serious scene, then you'll have someone come in with their silly voice, or you'll have a boing sound as you're going around, and it just like kind of breaks it up just for a second, so you don't realize just how serious it is for these guys to be in combat like they are.
Mm-hmm.
But I will agree with what you are all saying about the toys. Like there are so many toy tragedies from the series. Like McAdam's one of them. Like they did a lot of things to make you like McAdam, and then they put him in as a Build-A-Figure in the freaking deluxes, and then that thing that you build is awful, and it's such a disappointment. Like compared to what we're used to with Hasbro Build-A-Figures, looking through the window at Marvel Legends, it's like we all expected we were going to get something like that. It's like you get this little cheap figure feeling thing, and it's like he's not terrible, but compared to his friends, he's pretty bad.
He doesn't even transform.
No. And he's not bigger than them, and he is intentionally depicted as bigger than them in the cartoon for reasons.
Yeah.
It is just such a bummer. And Shadow Striker is another one of the big tragedies, because all of her toys were bad, yet she's in the whole damn series as a big character and just didn't get... who else didn't really get a good toy in the series? Windblade. Even though she's gotten other good toys.
I don't think Windblade's ever gotten a good toy.
She's gotten two decent toys.
She's gotten a couple that are approaching okay. I'll give you that.
That RID one's actually kind of good.
Coming off of RID, this cartoon was such a breath of fresh air. Sorry, that's it. That's the end of the thought.
Well, that's what I was curious about RID, because I never watched the end of RID, and I know a lot of people kind of had similar things to say about that cartoon. They're like, oh yeah, like the end of the... Like, I actually liked the, the beginning of RID and whatnot, and the Monster of the Week premise and whatnot, but part of it was, at that time, I was watching it with my kid. And then it kind of switched like in later seasons, and people were saying good things about it, but I don't know, did you not think that RID was really all that great, Peter?
I don't think RID hit any of my expectations for a kid-friendly Transformers cartoon. I did like the Monster of the Week thing. All the Decepticons were like, animal type crittery things, but then only a third of them got toys, which was lame. So that's the other thing. It didn't hit. It didn't meet my expectations for what I would want out of a kiddie friendly Transformers cartoon, where, as now in hindsight, Cyberverse did. And also RID wasn't a great sequel to a cartoon that I didn't really enjoy to begin with. I didn't like Prime. I'm not one of those Prime fans. And then yeah, the toys were sad. So sad.
They were sad.
I think I did like Prime, and I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't like RID, is because it was a sequel, and it was such a just different feel and look and everything. Same voice cast, where applicable, which wasn't often. I think 2 characters, maybe 3. But yeah, RID did have a great voice cast. But again, just such a jarring departure from what Prime was that it was hard for me to really get into it. And then the last season kind of came and went. And I still don't know where to find that thing streaming. I don't know if I haven't looked that hard in the last 6 months. But yeah, the final season I never finished it or watched all the way through. I found some of the combiners for cheap for my son. Those are meh toys. But the concept of them is much better than the execution.
They're pretty
fun.
mad toys.
They're mad toys, but they're fun for 5-year-olds with just chunky play pattern, and they're not going to break these toys, which is nice.
The Crash combiners I thought were good. The ones that were like the bigger combiners, I was not a fan of those. Like my kid kind of beat those toys up and lost them and whatever. So
I kind of like those conceptually, though, because they are like old school. They are combiners like our combiners were in G1. The very simple, like plugging heads into kneecap style combiner that barely moves when you put it together. It felt like a good little homage. Like, not something I particularly wanted to own, but it was just kind of like, oh yeah, this is what my toys were like. I want better. Okay, let's move on.
And they had some Scramble City, not 100% Scramble City. Arms couldn't become legs, but you could use the arms from different combiners and swap them around and stuff.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. But anyway, on to Cyberverse.
I think we've said everything there is to say. Let's wrap it up. Book club is. Yeah.
So the new movies, I don't know how much we want to actually get into spoilers. That's the only thing I'm like a little worried about for people that haven't seen it.
Is it safe to talk spoilers from season 3?
Yeah. Okay. Season 3 ended 8, 9, 10 months ago, if not longer.
I haven't seen season 3 though, Phil. So no.
And we can talk spoilers at a certain point. We just have to make it clear that we're going to do so. That's the way that we did it in the one episode we did of the Shattered Glass Book Club. Just make it very clear we're going to start spoiler world.
There you go. So
yeah, I mean, Enos, we're not saying that there wasn't good toys for RID. I just think that there were the toys could have been better for RID.
And there should have been more characters. I mean, yeah, Bisk is great and Thunderhoof is great. But for as many Decepticons as were showcased on the cartoon, and even like the combiner limbs, not all of the combiner limbs got individual, fully fleshed out toys. A lot of the characters that became combiner limbs, especially Decepticon combiner types, didn't get any toy outside of the combiner bits, which was sad.
Well,
yeah.
I wonder though with RID, because I feel like especially after the beginning, it was kind of hard to find some of the toys if you wanted to find them, right? Like the earlier ways were fine, and then some of the later ways weren't. But I don't know. I feel like this whatever Cyberverse show is like the little show that could kind of thing, where it just keeps chugging along. I don't know if part of that is COVID and or what exactly it is, but it's like I feel like the toys, like, they don't even bother announcing stuff anymore, but like they just show up on on shelves, and you're like, oh, hey, look, it's a pack of Repugnuses, and or it's Dinobots, or it's like whatever kind of thing where you're like, oh crap, like look at that.
Multiple multi-packs, like out of nowhere at Target, just like here's a 4-pack, it's $80. Here's a bunch of Seekers. Here's a bunch of this. Here's a bunch of that. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take that.
And the good news is, if you do like these toys, you can typically find them for cheap. That Seeker 4-pack got deeply discounted.
It did.
And
it's
again,
pretty.
Yeah.
They are pretty.
There's some really cool colors.
Shelf ornaments. As long as you don't expose that they can't move, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, I agree that the little toy line / cartoon that could, because it does just keep going. I don't think a lot of us expected that we would get these 2 little movies, about a year ago, and then all of a sudden I was like, yeah, we're gonna get more, and I'm just like, cool.
No, I heard we were gonna get them, and I just kind of forgot. It's not like I was eagerly sitting around waiting for these. Even though as soon as Peter suggested we talk about it on the show, I was like, ooh, I want to watch those because that'll be fun. But I wasn't sitting around being like, when are these going to come out? Instead, I sat around and waited for the freaking Netflix cartoon to come out. I was all excited about that. I watched that with my friends. And we could have just been all watching Cyberverse.
There's that contrast, right? Because the announcements came roughly the same time when we knew Kingdom was coming, the cartoon. They were like, Kingdom, Netflix, meh. But the announcements were about the same time when they said that they'd greenlit two movies, or 45-minute specials, or however they classified them at the same time roughly the same time that Kingdom was officially announced. And I was more hyped for Cyberverse than I was for Kingdom, because I knew what we were going to be getting from Kingdom. It was going to be more of this. And it's like, oh no. Whereas Cyberverse, when they announced it and said, hey, there's going to be Dinobots, I was like, oh, we're going to have fun with the Dinobots now, because everything I've watched so far in Cyberverse has been fun, and everything in Siege or whatever.
And this was such a fun group of Dinobots.
Oh,
yeah.
It was. Are we talking about it now?
Here we are. Spoilers. Yeah. We already announced it. We're game on.
I mean, if
that couldn't even be a spoiler, though, because that was like the whole preview.
It was.
Well, can we pause on the preview for just a second in terms of this show, like getting extra episodes and extra toys, which is fun, but then sometimes not getting love. Like, they showed a trailer, and like my son and I watched the trailer, like, oh my god, this trailer, this looks great, this show looks great, I can't wait. Like, when's it on? Like, oh shoot, it's on already. Like, they gave us that trailer like 2 days before they dropped the show, and then it was just like, oh, I'm so excited. When does this come? Oh, it's already here. All right, let's do it.
That is the case, though. Like, you can really contrast the way they advertised and released the but the Netflix shows. They got special toy lines, they got spoiler packs, they got lots of coverage, you got emails from polls, you got your Netflix ads, you got all sorts of announcements on your Facebook. And then with Cyberverse, it's just like Cyberverse just appears when it wants to.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, season 3's up. Did you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be a season 3. There is. There was. What?
Quintessons? Starscream's a Quintesson? What?
It's a bummer that they so poorly, or maybe intentionally poorly, advertised this series, but heavily advertised the much inferior series. And I'm going to make that well known that I really think Cyberverse is a much better thing to spend your time watching than Netflix cartoons.
100%.
I mean, and after these other shows and whatnot, and even with, you guys saying, oh, this is a good show, you should watch it, I was like, okay, whatever. Like, is it really, or is it just like, it's good in comparison? Just because that whole taste of like the Combiner Wars show that is just hot garbage, and the Netflix show, which is like better, I guess, in comparison. But man,
lukewarm garbage.
Right. So yeah, so my question with the Dinobots, like, so now, like, are the Dinobots just always going to combine?
No.
Well, like,
they don't need to. I would say they don't need to. My heart says no, but I'm more like Enoch said in the chat here. Cyberverse handled combining Dinobots way better than Power of the Primes did. Power of the Primes was barely a story, and they just were throwing toys at the screen like, "Hey, here's a toy, here's a toy."
Right.
This actually, they reached into the well of references that we have, and they pulled the Enigma of Combination out and actually talked about it and explained it real quick. I mean, Power of the Primes did the same thing, but go ahead.
No,
But they treated it even in like a typical Cyberverse way of it, like being like this, like, hey, look what I found. What does this do? Like, I don't know. It's called an enigma. It's an enigma. We don't know what it does. It's just very tongue in cheek with that. And, yeah.
They had fun with it.
It doesn't quite always get me to laugh, but it always gets me to smile.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't laugh at all the jokes, but I'm always smiling at them because it's like, oh, come on, guys. That is just so corny. But I'm happy. Like, I'm laughing with them. It's good times.
So one thing we didn't talk about, and I think we talked about last week, about where to actually watch the show. And you guys were saying in the chat, YouTube. So the first 2 seasons are on Netflix in the US at least.
But also YouTube.
But everything is on YouTube as far as in the US. Now, I don't know about other countries and whatnot, like what it's on and whatnot. Like if it's on YouTube or what. But I would say that's probably the best spot to watch.
Yeah.
So.
And it's relatively easy to, you just have to type in Cyberverse season whatever, and you'll find your season.
Yeah. On the official Hasbro Transformers YouTube page or whatever you call it, for vast majority. The last movie is not on the official Hasbro Transformer page, but it's
in the U.S.
In the U.S., yes.
It's on in Canada. If we have Canadian listeners, it's up in Canada right now, and it'll be in the U.S. soon. But, sorry, Phil, continue.
Yeah, no, it is easy to get a hold of.
It's very watchable. And because, I don't know, it fits the YouTube format because it is in 10-minute episodes, 11 minute. Mm-hmm. So it just feels like something you just click on YouTube. Although the way it was doing me today, I got an ad during every episode. That was a bummer, but that's okay.
I had a really weird experience with season 3 especially. Like, I kept hearing like season 3 was coming, and I would see on different websites, hey, season 3, these are the episodes that are coming. Like, these are the titles. I'm like, they're on my Comcast On Demand. And like, there were Transformers websites that were saying like, hey, here's the list of new episodes names. Like, yeah, that's the list of new episodes names because I watched them on demand on Comcast this past weekend. So again, the distribution of that show was so haphazard, I don't get it. I'm glad I got to see it. I'm glad it wasn't on demand. I don't know if I would have seen as much of the episodes if it wasn't, but it was just like, oh yeah, cool. There's another batch of like 8 new episodes on Comcast. Let's go.
Yeah, that's one thing I feel like in general with some of these cartoons that have kind of come out is like it's actually kind of hard to watch some of it. Like, Prime has been on Netflix like the whole time, I think. But like some of these other ones, I think Tubi TV has some stuff and whatnot. But then a lot of the other, various shows, it's actually, like you said, Phil, like if you want to watch RID, like where do you actually, watch that last season and whatnot? So.
And Prime for a while was only season 1 on Netflix. I think they might have added the later seasons now. But yeah, for the longest time, it was just season 1 of Prime. My son liked it, and it was just like, he's going to keep watching the Unicron 3-parter over and over again.
So, but yeah, no, I thought the movie was really good. I thought it was well paced. For the most part, I don't know, it kept me engaged, watching it. So, and again, Dinobots, like that was a ton of fun.
So I didn't get around to the end of season 3. Season 3 ends on a happy note, right? Like it ends with everything's kind of done for now.
It ends with a big question mark that got answered in the second movie.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Like what's going to happen with...
Yeah. It's like, what the hell is happening there? Oh.
Because I heard about all that. I just... I've seen some of it, just a little teeny bit. My relationship with season 3 was very much like my relationship with G1, where I just like randomly watched episodes sometimes. Like I got excited about something, went and watched an episode. Like I got this toy, so I went and watched this episode. And then other
what toy
episodes
is
with him in
that
it.
for our audio listeners?
I'm playing with them.
What toy is that for our audio listeners, Anna? What's his name?
It's the Deluxe Thunder Howl.
Thunder Howl, okay.
Yes. It's the one that feels like the wrong size because he's one of the few people that is bigger than everybody else. So I feel like the Ultra is actually the right size to get him at. But oh well, this one has ankles or something.
And the Ultra is the right design. The Deluxe is not quite the right look.
Right.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
But Ultras are loaded with gimmicks, so you gotta pick your poison.
You do. But anyway, yes, I just kind of sought out the ones that went with the episodes that I liked. Like I watched the Repugnus episode and I watched the Thunder Howl episode, so I didn't see all of season 3. But Cyberverse is more welcoming of that kind of approach than a lot of the other recent series. Like I could just watch a single episode and enjoy it. Which is nice to have sometimes. Don't always want to binge.
The first half of season 3 is a big multi-parter, and that might be a little bit hard to watch just a random episode.
They like their multi-parters too.
Yeah.
But it's not all multi-parters, so that's nice.
No, there's a big, like, they basically rip off the Matrix with the plot of the first half of season 3. And then instead of it being robots, it's quintessons.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like with the format and the episodes only being 10 minutes long, I don't mind them being multi-parters myself, but I could see where...
Oh, it's fine.
It has a degree of like complete ADHD and nothing feels connected, but also it goes into super hyper focus mode for several episode strings at a time. So there are multi-parters, like we've said, but then it'll wander for a little bit and everyone's just kind of floating around doing whatever. And then it goes back to like everyone comes back together to focus on this one thing real quick. And by real quick, I mean 4, 5, 6 episodes, and then everyone's off meandering again.
So, Peter, what you're saying is it's kind of like our show, where we
Yes.
meander, and then like halfway through, there might actually be some actual information.
Lucas herds the cats, and we all get into a line, and we say what we need to say, and then we go off on tangents again.
We start jumping about.
But it's like
Yes.
2 hours in, so you're like, oh,
I'm stuck. I can't go anywhere.
If we actually, yeah. Hopefully the 2 people that got all the way through this.
No, I agree with that though. Like I agree with that it has both of those, but it is nice just to be able to be like, after I watched the Repugnus episode, I had a friend I thought would enjoy it. So I was just like, hey, watch this. Here's the link. It's 10 minutes. Watch the damn thing and see if you think this is funny or interesting. And that was it. Like I didn't have to tell him, go watch 5 episodes or watch all of season 2 and 3 first and then whatever, watch this. It was just like, watch this one episode. It's a self-contained story. It's fun and silly. Look at the references. Look at the different colored bug people. It's a good time. And I enjoy that.
Well, I mean, I think it's good to hear because for someone like me, I know where you're like, oh, we're starting with season 4, that you're like, oh God, I need to actually watch, all of these episodes and get through them and whatnot. And so that's the thing. It's nice to hear. It's like, oh no, like there are some self-contained episodes and I can just check it out and have some bite-sized chunks to where you don't actually have to, watch hours and hours in order to catch up with the plot.
And here's the thing for all you people who watch, you binge watch TV drama shows that are like an hour long each. An entire season of Cyberverse is somewhere between 3 and 5 hours. So it doesn't take very long to get
I don't even know if it's that long. It's maybe like 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't, definitely not 5 hours.
18 times 10, right? For the first 2 seasons.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
It's
3 hours.
3 hours. That's 3 hours.
And then season 2 or season 3 is 26 episodes. So that's 26 times 10.
That's math, and I don't do math, Anna.
I guess I didn't realize how many episodes were in season 3. Wow, that's more than I thought.
I think it's 26, right? I would say
I
it
don't
is.
know. It's been a little while since I've watched season 3. I kind of wanted to go back and watch it again.
I'm pretty sure.
Season 3 is bizarre because it's like 3 different chunks. Like the first chunk is the big war between Autobots and Decepticons. Then the middle chunk is the Matrix / Quintessons, story. And then the final chunk is all these like one-offs that, like Peter's demonstrating with his arms, like just all over the flipping place. But like, there's some of my favorites because
earlier
you just get random concepts and ideas and characters, and that's where you got Wild Wheel, Meteor Fire, Hammer Bite, and I love his story. I love the how they tied in something they had been doing in that show with an old school G1 episode. So yeah, the final little batch of season 3 episodes are just a crap ton of fun.
Because earlier today, I thought I was going to watch the end of season 3 and get a good idea of what was going on for the new movies. And it's just like, no, you're going to watch Wreck and Ruin run around with Ratchet and what the hell's going on.
It's great.
And people and Jetfire's disappearing. And it's like, all right, well, this is amusing, so I don't care. But this is not telling me anything.
Like, if you just want to watch the season 4 movie, the second movie is a little harder to watch without knowing what else has happened.
The first one, though, like works
easy.
Perfectly. It's fine.
The only thing I would say you kind of need to know is like Grimlock is that like intelligent, boisterous guy in robot mode and angry dinosaur and T-Rex mode.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I feel like you picked that up pretty quick. Anyway, like even if you didn't, watch the earlier seasons and whatnot, so
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I do have to say one.
Oh, I was gonna say that was the thing that was kind of weird for me, like watching these, like I feel like these 2 movies or whatever don't necessarily go together exactly. Like
not very well. Like they do, and they do as much as any of the disparate plots from the other seasons did. It's just it's 2 45-minute episodes instead of 18 10-minute episodes. So it's like they're both good episodes by themselves, thinly sucked together by the concept of Dinobots are there.
You basically get in the first movie a commercial for all the Dinobot Cyberverse toys that they've got coming out. And then the second movie is
a sequel.
The second movie is basically wrapping up the storyline that they've been doing for the last 4 seasons. Yes. Yeah.
So now after this, like, are there more episodes coming out, or is this pretty much it?
I've seen multiple places that this is it. This is supposed to be it. But it felt
like an ending.
It did feel like an ending. Yeah, the cartoon certainly felt like they tied a nice bow, really nice bow. Most cartoons
and a totally good bow, like a very good bow.
Yeah.
Happy with that bow.
Very happy with it.
Like, I would not be disappointed if we got more, and I wouldn't, and it can be, to me, like, if we got, like, a spin-off, again, of just, like, Meteor Fire doing his show, like a 5-minute, like, little YouTube bits would be
great.
Fun. That. Like, I don't want to leave this version of the Transformers universe behind. And honestly, like, I don't remember the last time I felt that way about a Transformers show where it's like, man, this version of the Transformers universe is one that I'm having a harder time saying goodbye to.
Animated
a little bit, yeah.
I feel like this is the first time since animated we really get to see Transformer culture, and seeing Transformer culture gets you more invested in it. I always tell people that, like, that's something that really gets you invested in the series, is getting an idea of what their lives are like. And we get to see Cybertron, we get to talk about it. Like, a friend of mine was really complaining about that episode in season 1 where they do Cube. The whole thing where Bumblebee and Starscream crash a game of Cube, and which is their sports game for anyone who didn't watch season 1. They crash a game and they're all fighting each other, and Bumblebee meets Windblade and whatever. And, a couple of my friends actually complained about that. Like, why are we watching some sports episode? This is stupid. It's like, because you're getting to see Cybertron's culture. You get to see, like, they had a sport. They cared about their sport. The Decepticons were still assholes, but not as illegal as they later got to be, not as murderous. And it was cool. Like, that I really enjoyed. The racing episode, too, with Blur, even though it was sad, that was also really fun because it got me to see the culture they had. And suddenly I cared more about those characters. Even though Bumblebee was, like, my least favorite character in the whole series, I still cared more. It's a good use of time to me.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the characters got very little screen time. You got character like Whirl gets some nice little character moments. If you've dealt with Whirl in other places, like you probably flesh it out more in your mind. But he gets some nice little moments. It's just you get characters that never really had moments. Like, and I apologize, I can't remember which of the Stunticons is in season 3. Is that Dead End?
Dead End. Yeah, like Dead End. Like, I don't know who chose Dead End to be like a main character in season 3, but it's like he is, and he works and is great. So there's a little bit of, again, that sort of formula that worked well with Lost Light of just giving, especially in season 3, giving some smaller characters some of their own moments, giving them a storyline that gives them time to shine. And again, similarities to Lost Light, as Rodimus is one of the main characters in the season 3 stories. So, but it does just, they figure out a way to, and then again, add new characters to the show, like Thunderhowl, who's a Cybertronian knight, which we had seen really crappy versions of Cybertronian knights fairly recently. And this is a fun one.
I agree. And one really cool thing that Enox mentioned is the opposite of what I'm holding right now, that I've wanted forever, is that I'm holding a tiny Astro Train. We got a really big Astro Train. I was glad to finally have a giant robot Astro Train. Even though I'm not going to get a toy of him, probably, I was still happy to see him represented that way, because it's always been something I wanted to see.
Ultimate class Astro Train.
Yes. It was cool. It was just like, the guy who's always annoyed all of us by getting much, much bigger and carrying everyone is finally a big robot. So it's frustrating that he changes as much. He still gets bigger when he turns into a shuttle. I was so happy to see that. I had forgotten that was a thing until I was watching random episodes today, and I was like, oh yeah, he's so big, I love it. And, well, the movie did treat him nicely.
But yeah, this does actually kind of feel like a little bit like Lost Light. And More Than Meets the Eye, like on there, like if you like pitched it and said, oh, I want a, an age appropriate show where they kind of go off and have space adventures and whatever else, like this is it captures a little bit of that.
It is. It's character focused. Yeah. It's lighthearted. It doesn't mind jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some like that. Some deeper sci-fi stuff, a little bit like the episode where they get into that weird negative space and they're meeting all the other arcs and have to figure that out. That feels like a Star Trek plot right there.
It does.
Probably was a Star Trek plot, and I just can't remember it.
Certain it is.
So it's just fun. If you're I get it. If you don't have kids, it's harder to get into it. It was easier for me to get into it having kids. It's like to just make that first like put your toe in the water. You think the water's too cold, sort of thing. I can see how you'd feel that way, but don't give the show a chance. If you don't want all the Bumblebee stuff, then just jump right to season 2 or even season 3. It's fun, and you'll want to go back and watch the older episodes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I started on season 1, watched a couple episodes, was like, this is going to be just like RID, and didn't do anything until season 2. And then season 2, I binged it and was like, okay, well, I'm going to go back and watch season 1 now. And it still wasn't, it wasn't season 2. or season 3 for that matter. But I'm super glad I went back and revisited it. And if you're willing to sit through the Netflix War for Cybertron stuff, you owe it to yourself to have something fun related to Transformers fiction in your life.
Right.
This is something that I do sort of miss with, you get it with the comic books where you have more of a singular or tighter knit writing team. You don't have that as much with the cartoons. And obviously it was like decades until we got to actually talk to the people who wrote the cartoons from the 80s. But like, this is definitely a show where I'd love to like have a panel with some of the writers of the show and just like, what happened? Talk to us about how the show originated. Talk to us about how because it did change, how that process went and like what were things you wanted to do, all that sort of stuff. This is definitely a panel that I would sit in line, to get a good spot in line for at a TFCon kind of thing. And I don't think I've felt that way since Lost Light, More Than Meets the Eye kind of deal.
Everything I've heard about the writers for this, they've been so positive about everything, which reflects in the way the cartoon plays out.
Yeah.
It's a very positive thing, lots of positive storytelling, that sort of thing. So it'd be nice to hear. And they just do so many characters that other things have done injustice. They do them justice. Those of us who've read the comics have gotten used to, RC being like a more violent, more adventurous type character. But they did that here. They made her more, more of a warrior and more actiony and whatnot. But they actually made her fun. Instead of grim and scary and murderous, she's just like a fun adventurer type. And
but she's also kind of murderous.
To save the character.
Yeah.
She's murderous enough, yes.
Well, it's like they make jokes about like her big guns, and it's just like, and I'm not like that's not a euphemism. Like she'll just like her and Grimlock will just be standing down in the arc like with giant cannons blasting asteroids, and in the first movie like she has this cool gun that like one of the bad guys who's basically they make Bug Bite Rocket Raccoon, and it's like I want to steal your gun.
Yes, and it's very amusing. But it works. It's like I get what they were referencing. I know where they got the idea for RC being, like the badass fighter lady, but they didn't make her awful the IDW comics did. Right. So I get to enjoy that version of her, which I never had before.
The IDW that made her Galvatron's sibling.
No, it was a mess. It was a total mess. And this wasn't. But you can still see the influence from it. Yeah. Just like you can see the influence, someone said the word mercenaries real fast. So yeah, there's mercenaries in the second movie. And second, not first. Yeah.
No, first movie.
No, first? Okay, you're right. It's the first one.
Yep.
The second one's the other reference. But yeah, there's mercenaries in it. And they're like, a lot of them are the same mercenaries that we saw in the War for Cybertron, but this time they're fun and memorable and enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they got to Team Rocket away so they could come back later because I actually enjoyed them. They were fun.
And even though the mercenaries were only a part of a 45-minute special, I think they got more screen time in the 45-minute special than they did in the entire span of Earthrise.
Or they at least had more lines.
Certainly more lines.
And more personality. A lot more personality.
A lot more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much better presentation.
I don't think there were any voice actors that I could name off the top of my head that did this. And some of the voice actors sounded a little bit alike. Some of them sounded a little more childish. But all the characters did have personalities.
They did.
Wheeljack had a personality that I don't think we'd ever seen before.
He has a fun personality.
Yeah, no, a real fun personality. And it was an extension, I guess, of what we have seen before, like that, going that next step further with him. Cheetor had a great character moment, like way, way better than anything we got with the Netflix show. It's not the same Cheetor that you got from Beast Wars. It's a different version of Cheetor. But if you like Cheetor, like that's a great arc that he has.
It's fun.
And has consequences. So
Like I always have these moments too, like when I'm just gonna I'm going to say we go into spoiler territory for the movie because we're probably going to like try to stop relatively soonish and whatever. Is that okay with you guys?
Sure.
Okay, fine. All right. So, like, the second that Sound Blaster showed up and he started talking with a strong Southern accent, at first I was just like, why is he that? What is going on here? But then it really amused me after a couple minutes. Like, I just let it be funny. I just let it be awkward and funny and uncomfortable. And it just, again, made me smile for no good reason. It made him just such a weird villain that he was walking around with his thick Southern accent, but he's also Black Soundwave, new Soundwave. And he was so much more fun than he was in the Netflix series when we were all so excited to see him with a new characterization in the Netflix series. Well, this one did it way better.
Yeah. And Bug Bite, same deal. It was like, oh, Bug Bite officially,
Yes.
like, in a Transformers thing. Like, no. Like, all right, I know you guys have talked about in microcasters that mold, this mold that you guys just recently did, and the Bug Bite, and I think, Anna, you like, no, well, you didn't like Bug Bite the best, but whatever. Like, no, give me this Bug Bite. Give me the Cyberverse Bug Bite. I will take him up and down, left, right, and it's the same shtick. It's a white bumblebee with a purple mercenary logo and purple eyes, but they just give him a wildly different character. Did they say the mercenary Wreck and Ruin's name? They probably did. I just can't.
Yeah,
remember.
he was
Double Crosser.
Double Crosser.
Double Crosser. Oh yeah, they did the.
And they even
And
did
he has a toy, yeah.
Yeah.
they did the face recoloring too.
Yeah.
Because he's the Ramp Master that we got.
And then
He actually got to be in a series. That Ramp Master that never got included in the Netflix series got to be in Cyberverse.
Yeah, and I just realized I have a toy of him.
Yep.
But that was a great line of like, oh, you guys got one of them too. So when they see Rack and Ruin, who they're the recolors of. And then, lately Nightbird has been repaints of RC, and they do that in this show too.
And I almost felt like the repaint thing was almost a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke, too.
Oh, definitely.
Because it was like, here you go, a bunch of repaints to show it up to be super powerful and evil and mess everything up, and they're just straight repaints.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it just makes you laugh, because you're like, that's ridiculous. They're just like 4 nobodies repainted.
Right. But they got a cool gun. They've got a cool MacGuffin.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to collect all of them now in Cyberverse style.
Yeah.
And then they hang out with another toy we'll never get.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if we would ever get that, but he's close enough to his G1 look, just the Cyberverse styling. So yeah, the Mercenaries boss is Trypticon, who somehow fits in the spaceship that's much smaller than he himself is.
Right.
But the way he comes out is also kind of funny, because he's like squeezing himself out, and it's like, it's also a joke about the size.
Well, see, I thought whenever I saw that he was going to be the spaceship itself and transform, kind of like the game or whatnot, the
War for Cybertron?
War for Cybertron, yeah, thank you. The War for Cybertron game, that it would be kind of like that, but oh no, he's just somehow in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was funny, and it didn't need to be explained, and we moved on, and then he came and he caused trouble. And he got to be another smart dinosaur. So he was a good foil for Grimlock.
Yeah, and has a nice little speech that my son didn't get at all, but I thought was hysterical, about how he acts as a boss.
He's firm, but
yeah.
Yes, it was fun.
Yeah, that obviously was for us and not for the kids.
It was. But it was cool. And how many times has Trypticon gotten good characterization in any fiction?
Marvel Generation 1, UK and US. One issue here, one issue there. But in both cases, he was smart, trapped in a giant body, and tried to do his best with his awkward-ass body. And he fought the Dinobots.
Yeah.
And zombies.
There you go.
Yeah, it's rare, right? So it's something that hasn't happened in a while. And we got it. And it was a fun characterization.
Like, I don't mind
Enjoyed
how he
it.
was in the G1 cartoon. Again,
Just a weapon.
but he was a big dumb oaf that it was comic relief, but it worked. I don't know. It worked for my pea-size, little kid brain that loves big
For sure.
robots and loves big dinosaurs. So, certainly some of the episodes that he was the star in of G1 were mildly insensitive, Carbomia, specifically. But yeah, I mean, this was not that same version of Trypticon, and again, this is what they did in the second movie, where it's just like, yep, now he's a permanent part of the landscape.
Now he's a
Yeah,
shopping
that was
center.
cool.
Yes.
I love that when like Optimus is reading that off and he's like, wait a minute, am I reading an ad here?
Yeah.
He gets so disappointed. It's so funny.
He sighs. He's
Because I feel like that's another like kind of fun thing they do with the series is he's just Optimus. Like he's just a very normal G1 Optimus trapped in a much sillier world. And he just has to go along with it because he's like, no, I'm not like boring, serious dad general, and the rest of this world is goofy as hell.
Yeah. What was that line? Like I think it was in the second movie where someone was like, does that Optimus like always go on like this and whatnot? And they're like, oh yeah, Megatron's just as bad or whatever about the
But why do you follow this guy? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought that was really funny.
But this was a you mentioned that this Optimus was like G1 Optimus but trapped in a sillier world. And to a degree I do totally agree with that, but Gen 1 Optimus was himself kind of silly. He wasn't like the somber, serious like movie and prime Optimus that we got in the late 2000s, early teens or whatever. This Optimus feels a little, I mean, he feels a lot like Generation 1 Optimus, like Gen 1 specifically cartoon Optimus, where he is in this kind of Gen 1 Optimus played basketball. And am I drooling correctly and doing the thing with the ball on his shoulders? I don't know. This yeah. I lost my train of thought.
This Optimus to me sort of felt like David Kay's animated Optimus, like I don't know, some drastic time in the future where he had become the leader of the Autobots.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of refreshing though, because I feel like we keep moving this line where, Optimus is so serious, and then he like in the movies is like this like murder Optimus and whatnot, and it's kind of sad. It's like, oh, I kind of want more of that fun, silly.
I come back to the Brave and the Bold comparison of Batman Brave and the Bold compared to the Batman movies at the time, because around the same time you had the Christian Bale Batman. And Optimus has become the Christian Bale Batman at times, where it's just like, I'm Batman. Yeah, Megatron must be stopped. And it's just like, it is, whatever it was in the 80s where grim and gritty became the way to go with characters, whether it's Dark Knight Returns or The Watchmen, like every hero has to go through that phase of just being like, I'm going to rip your face off kind of thing. Like, that's how I show I'm a tough, badass leader, is being ultra violent. At least that's how pop culture is like taking these characters through their paths. So again, this was, you had moments where Optimus is beating the crap out of a whole, I guess, killing a bunch of Tarns. But he's not an asshole about killing a bunch of Tarns. He's reluctant about killing a bunch of Tarns.
No, I mean, people are dying.
You
People
could
on
be.
both sides die in horrible ways in this cartoon. But it's never taken to the point where, give me your face, and then he rips Megatron's head and spine out and slings it around and shoots his dad in the face or whatever he did to Sentinel. And
He shot his dad in the face, yeah.
But I also really like with this show too that the bigger main characters are you can feel the weight of like that character, like Grimlock, for example. I mean, he just comes in and just wrecks some stuff like constantly. And I love that where, it's like, yeah, you guys might have this guy, this guy, this guy, but we've got a Grimlock and you got to watch out.
We've got a Hulk.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then we also have a combiner then.
Right.
We have a Volcanicus that the Volcanicus toy that they've made where it's just the combined thing is kind of meh. I think my son wants it. And I'm just like, nah. If I find out on clearance, maybe I'll pick it up for him. Other than that, I'm not going to go after it. Yeah.
I like this Volcanicus. Like, it was fun. It was a fun way to do it, and I want to own this one, but I don't really want the non-transforming, non-combining. It transforms.
Yeah, it does transform.
Into something.
And my son was like, when does he turn into the big dragon? Like, I don't know. I'm like, no, he doesn't. He doesn't the combiner mode doesn't transform like the toy does. So,
no, of course it doesn't.
Yeah. So it was still fun. You did have that like very Looney Tunes-esque montage of him like learning how to walk as he's doing the whole training thing. That was like straight out of like, Bugs Bunny. Which again, I could see how some people would be turned off by that, but it gets back to the show pretty quickly. And again, if you look at when the Dinobots are saying what happened to them, it's like, oh, their planet got blown up. Their friends all died. Their buddy Tiny Arms wanted to be like Grimlock, and he was killed. It's like, okay, they have some really, just over the top silliness, but that silliness is like, oh wait, what did they say just happened there?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I felt the same way about that. Like, as it was happening, I was like, wait a second. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Shout out to Tiny Arms.
Yeah, the serious sad backstory. Poor silly Dinobots.
I need to see what Tiny Arms looked like. I want to see, like, did he look just like Grimlock? Was he it would be kind of almost sort of fun if Tiny Arms was Beast Wars Megatron. Like, I know some Beast Wars fans would hate that, but if it turns out like Tiny Arms was just his nickname and he was or if he just not even just keep his name Tiny Arms and he turned into a purple T-Rex, like I would enjoy that little, again, I'm not a huge Beast Wars fan, so I'm sure that's sacrilege to some folks, but
whatever.
I like that.
It's fun pillage. It works.
Yeah. So
I'd be happy with that. I'd even be happy if they just made him in Beast Wars Megatron colors and said, this is Tiny Arms, whatever. It was like, he's Beast Wars Megatron colors. That's funny. And we can move on with our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just, you haven't had that many transforming T-Rexes, so the fact that there's another one that's been introduced would be like, give us another little homage. So.
And I like these Dinobots. I really did. They were fun. They were not relatable. That's not the word I want. But I mean, I'm not a dinosaur. But they were like likable is also not the word I want. But you know what I mean. Like, it was easy to get invested in them.
They were definitely likable.
Yeah.
Investable? I can't think of the word I want, but they were worth investing in. I cared about them. They were cute and lovable and likable. I wanted them to do good.
I did like them a little more in the second movie where they weren't the sole focus of attention, and they kind of played the role that Dinobots have done, like in the 86 movie, where they were a bit of the big stompy comic relief sort of thing. That was a fun usage of them again.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah,
I actually liked them better in the first movie though.
And that's fine.
She get to talk and
I like Swoop a lot. I like their version of Swoop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad that Cyberverse is willing to just be like, we want to have more woman characters. We'll just make Superwoman now. That's fine.
Yeah.
And it didn't hurt anything. No. It made it better.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I feel like all of the women characters, it just blended into the show. It felt natural for the most part.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't sitting there going like, oh, that's that's a woman, blah blah blah.
Right. Why is Cosmos a girl? That's so offensive. I'm upset. No, it was just like, oh well, Cosmos is a girl in this series. That's good.
Right.
The only thing I didn't like with that was Clobber, just because it's like, wait, that's Lugnut. It's not Clobber. Like, if they had just a joke that Lugnut was her brother, because it was such a different character and different sounding voice, but looked so similar. I will say for a lot of the characters that they did gender swaps on, like okay, it still seemed like that character, maybe not with Cosmos as much, but I don't know. It was like Lugnut and Clobber, robot mode looked the same, different alt mode, but even if they said it was Lugnut and just had Lugnut be a female this time, I would have been fine with it. But the fact that they gave it the nearly identical robot mode and a different name, just threw me for a mild loop. But Clobber was a really great character too.
Clobber was fine.
Yeah.
She was fun. I'm just glad that they actually, like, most of the time in Transformers stuff, they won't do a gender swap, and so they just add more and more characters. They just keep piling on new people in order to add women, and in this series, they just gender swapped a few characters. They're new versions of the character anyway. It's not like the Skywarp in this series was going to be original Skywarp, so why not let it be a woman Skywarp? That's fine. Doesn't really change anything. It's already a new character.
Right.
Right.
And the new ones they add, like Shadow Striker, were awesome freaking characters.
Legitimately new characters, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was Shadow Striker a legitimately new character, or was she introduced sidebar in RID as one of the combiner limbs?
I think so.
I don't know.
I want to say, Peter, that the name was just a little bit off. I think it was just like a really close name, but I'm not sure. You're probably right. You're usually right.
There's no telling.
There is, and I might look it up to find out, but
You always do, Phil.
Look, I have a robot with a cowboy hat.
Ta-da.
and that would fit in perfectly well in this show.
He has
Because there was one.
He's got a vest.
What toy is this from?
This is Gun Kid. I mean, Super Megatron. This is going to be my Super Megatron. He was going to be Super Megatron, then he wasn't. But he has a cowboy hat. That's all I care about. Look, it's like Wild Wheel.
Yeah.
He's Marshall Bravestar meets Transformers.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh.
that's fun.
Well, do we have any other plot points and whatnot to talk about, or
Anything from the second movie? Because we didn't touch it too heavy.
well, the
Obviously,
only
you
thing I'm
said
worried about
Tarn
that
was
is
there.
just because it officially is not in the U.S.
Oh,
so
okay.
there's
Right.
Only,
It hasn't
there's
dropped.
only, I don't want to
Then.
spoil a bunch of stuff from that.
It's very easy to find on YouTube.
And
it's
totally
great
worth
quality.
a watch. Yep.
If you're waiting for it to be official, you should watch it. It's actually good. I actually enjoyed both the movies separately, but
Yes.
I think it was fun. I think I like the first one better. I think I like the Dinobot centric one a little more than the second one. But that's probably just because I haven't watched all of Cyberverse, so I don't know as many of the
Right.
nods in universe as I know the odds out of universe to other Transformer stuff.
I feel like the only reason I maybe didn't like the second one as much is because it has an ending, and I kind of don't want it to end.
That was going to be my point about the second one, is that the first one felt like another adventure with the Cyberverse characters.
Mhm.
The second one felt like ending the plot. It's done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ah,
it is true.
still really good. You should still, everyone should
Yes.
still check it out. Find it, watch it, wait for it to come out officially. Whatever you want to do, it's still worth a watch, most definitely. But Yeah.
What is? I keep forgetting the name of the MacGuffin in this one. The helm of what?
Oh God.
Corvus or something? I don't remember.
Oh,
It
but
is
is like I don't. Peter, was that
Corvus.
ever something that's come up in Transformers before?
No.
Okay,
That's a new one.
but it felt like such a Transformers MacGuffin name. Like the name they give it, the helm of whatever, is like, oh yeah, I think this is new, but it feels like it could have been some random MacGuffin from a Marvel UK book from 1987.
I agree. The last like pseudo complaint / observation / it kind of just bugged me I do have about both movies is the voice they gave to Volcanicus. Because like I said earlier, how they just like to infuse hyperactive 12-year-old boy into the series. For some reason, Volcanicus's voice was a hyperactive 12-year-old boy.
And it was
Well,
perfect
I
because he
thought it
was
great, yeah.
he was a new character, a new being, and he was
Right.
like exploring
A
himself and
stupid
exploring.
kid.
Yeah, just like, look at what I can do. Look at this. This is great. Yeah. Cortex helm.
Cortex helm. Thank you. Cortex helm.
helm.
But I feel like a lot of the Dinobots had younger sounding voices, and in
Yeah,
the
they
second
did.
movie they even call them, you know, the new guys or the young ones or something
young
like
ones.
that. So, you know, the voice sort of sounds like an amalgamation of all their voices. Even in robot mode, Grimlock's voice is not necessarily youthful, but is very high energy.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
I just found it to be an annoying voice to listen to, but that's just me.
My 7-year-old son absolutely loved it, and I'm pretty sure he was the target audience for that.
I'm sure Volcanicus finds my voice annoying too, and it's okay.
So, but yeah, overall, I'd definitely say that, you know, if you have kids, try to introduce them to the show. Even if you don't, you know, this is a really fun show. Like, I enjoyed this. It's probably the, you know, most enjoyable Transformers cartoon series that I've had in a while.
So Phil was in, and Peter was in, and I've been into Cyberverse. Has this redeemed Cyberverse for you, Lucas? Because I know you weren't really like super
100%.
into it. You were always kind of like, I was okay with Cyberverse, but I don't really care about it.
So I couldn't get past that first season. I know like a lot of us have said that. And so, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like if you're, you know, kind of like me, it's like just start on season 2, binge season 2. And then if you want to go back, you can, you know, you can watch the first season and whatnot. But, you know, I feel like Christian and I were kind of in the same spot. And like I really enjoyed the movies. I thought that those were really good. I enjoyed season 2. I'm looking forward to watching season 3. So,
yay! Hopefully, we converted some people in the audience too. They'll go watch it if they haven't. Give it a try. It's good Transformers fiction, and we don't always get that.
Speaking of audience, where's Aldron tonight? I haven't seen him.
Yeah, I know with the later
there.
show that I think he's probably had to, you know, sign off early and kind of catch.
Some
back
people
up.
have to go to sleep.
But I do want to mention if you do like good Transformers fiction, the book club this week is covering Till All Are One, 1 and 2. So that is, I think there's 12 total issues of that. I believe.
Apparently,
is that right? I think.
Yeah,
I
we
think
talked
it's
about
12.
that. There's 12.
Anyway, and that was written by is it Margaret Scott? Is that how you pronounce her first name? I think. Anyway,
Margaret.
She's a you know, really good writer and whatnot.
Good at
And
writing,
so,
yes.
Yes. So I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on this, Anna, because I know that, you know, you like some of the concepts, but not always.
I like
the writing
everything
on
she's
some of the
written yet so far, so we'll see what I think of this one.
So, but yeah, that is going to be on the TF Talk Discord at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central on Sunday night, correct?
Yep. Feel free to join us. It's a good jumping in point since we're starting a new comic book kind of. Yeah, we'll fill you in on what happened, and everybody will complain about it. It'll be good.
There you go.
The plot, not filling people in. We spend a lot of time in the book club complaining about the characterization of certain characters. Spoiler. It's fun. It's a positive complaining.
There you go. So, and then we are actually going to get to, I think, the MMC, what is it?
Mentis. He's like a dentist for your brain. Mentis.
So, yeah. So I think we're actually going to cover it this week. I believe we skipped or we delayed it a week because Rob had not gotten his yet and wanted to join us. So Hopefully he'll be able to join us this week, but otherwise we're just going to do it either way. So
Mentis, the fresh maker.
There you go. So check that out. That's going to be Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central on the TF Talk Facebook page. So yeah. But,
Watch Cyberverse.
Yep. I guess that's
final
it.
thoughts.
I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
Final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts, Peter.
Old people like me like to say like, G1 is G1 and G1. And then young people like Christian like to say like, oh, Cybertron's my G1 and my G1 and mirror. And Cybertron, I'm sorry if that was your G1. But Cyberverse is a great, if you were a child, place to be. It's a great place for that to be your G1 because it is fun, upbeat, positive, lots of characters, lots of deep cut Transformers references. You can watch it with your parents if you're, 5 to 12, like we mentioned earlier. You can watch it with your friends. You can collect the toys. The toys look like the cartoon. Everything matches. Everything syncs up. Everything works really, really well. And I'm an old man saying that, so I hope I'm not too far out of pocket understanding it or whatever. But I had fun watching it, and my kids had fun watching it, and I hope you have fun watching it.
Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Thanks to Zeldron. Thanks to Catherine. Thanks to Daniel. Thanks to Ron. Thanks to John. Thanks to Starman80s. Thanks to Enots.
Robe,
of course, showed up later on here. Thanks to Catherine. Did I say Catherine before?
You did. But thank you to all of you.
Yeah, thank you to everyone. We appreciate it. And anything else before we wrap here? I feel like you have like a Peter almost has like a thought, but no. Okay, fair enough.
I think he spends it.
So, all right. Well, thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.
bye everybody.
Thanks.